Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it's Thursday, September the 7th, 2023, day 561 of Vladimir Putin's barbaric venture in Ukraine. And we want to do a little frontline update here. The map has not changed much, except to say that in the north, the Russians have given back all the gains of their big offensive and have been pushed back beyond the Zarabets River, been pushed back away from Sinchivka, north of Kupiansk, and are making no ground there. The big axes, it looks to me like things are really heating up in Zaporizhia. There are reports that the Swedish artillery system Archer is in use in Zaporizhia and that it's pounding the Russian lines. Now, if it's hard to see, I know here, but those black lines that you see there, those are the fortifications that the Russians built over the last 8 months, and the so-called Sorovikin lines. And you can see there's basically 2 of them, and then there's the major defensive lines at the front. So basically 3 layers of defenses that the Ukrainians have to get through. But here's the thing. Once they're through those layers, it's open ground. It's open steppe, right? Open fields, open terrain, room for maneuver warfare, no minefields, at least not minefields like they've been dealing with. Minefields which, for all those naysayers about the counteroffensive, you should bear in mind, under American military doctrine, minefields that dense are considered impassable. So if it was us going in here, we wouldn't do what the Ukrainians have done and surgically carve our way through those minefields at the cost of blood for every meter. We wouldn't do it. We'd go around. That's our doctrine, our 100-year-old doctrine that does not play here. And of course, they're doing it without close air support, which we would never do. So for everybody who's bitching about the progress of this advance, they should shut the fuck up. Now, what we do see is that the Ukrainians have surgically carved their way through those so-called impassable minefields and taken out. Now, here's the thing, guys, that we got to remember. Everybody seems to agree, the military strategists out there seem to agree that what the Russians did, and you can see it from the concentration of these forces. See those little red diamonds on there? Each one of those represents some brigade or battalion or company of the Russian Federation. And you see where they're clustered. 60% of the Russian troops are on the front line. They just held back 20% for that first Sorovikin line and another 20% for that third line, that's the last line of defense there. And at this point, the Ukrainians are through that first Sorovikin line at Robotny. Now, we're going to look at that up close here in a minute. But I want you to think about something for me for a second. Look at these 2 big axes of attack. One, the one on your right, if you're looking at the screen, goes straight south to Mariupol. The one on the left goes straight south to Melitopol. 2 key destinations. Is it possible that we're looking at an evolving pincer move where we could suddenly see, once the breakout happens, once they're through the Sorovikin lines and they're behind the enemy positions, could we see them collapse those front lines in Zaporizhia and plow through to Melitopol and Mariupol? That's my hope. That's what I'm hoping for. Now, let's take a look at the current situation around Robotny. So as we can see here, now, if you read RT or Rybar or the Russian mill bloggers, there's a funny story. They're either saying that they're still in Robotny or that the withdrawal from Robotny was a tactical one. right? That they did it on purpose. Okay. I don't know why you just sent the 76th in then to try to retake it. If it was a tactical move, there should be a follow-up, right? But anyway, that aside for a second. What's important here is that we can see the Ukrainians are in control of the first trench line. You see how there's two parallel black lines there? The first one is a tank trench. That's intended to keep your motorized brigades out, right? Get them stuck. But the Ukrainians have surpassed the tank trenches, the dragon's teeth, the lines of barbed wire, the defensive fortifications, and they are fighting in that trench. This map is at least 48 hours old. I think they're much more further advanced than you would guess from looking at this map. But remember, down where my head is in the screen here, just another 15 kilometers south is Tokmak. And that's the rail line that does all the resupply for the southern front. Ukrainians get fire control over that. It's game over, baby. It's game over for the southern front. We could see in this month, in September, a collapse of the southern line in Zaporizhia. And that is my fondest hope. More evidence to that as a possibility can be found here if we take a look at the topographical map. So where you see all those explosions, that's where Russian drones were taken out by Ukrainian armed forces, and the Ukrainian armed forces are pushing through to the east and north of Novoprokopivka. But you notice the heights. You see the heights there? Those heights run right down parallel to the highways to Tokmak and eventually to Tokmak. If the Ukrainians can gain those heights above Verbove, if they can gain those heights south of Novopropokivka, they'll have an express lane to get themselves to Tokmak and to have fire control over everything in the valleys below. So keep your fingers crossed. This could be a turning point in the war, and it'll shake out in the next couple of weeks.